ready to talk Cane Corsos.
Always ready to talk dogs.
You know, you guys sent in some really interesting articles about this breed.
Yeah, some fascinating stuff.
And it seems like there are a lot of misconceptions out there about Cane Corsos.
Definitely a lot of myths floating around.
Yeah, so let's dive right in and try to separate fact from fiction.
Let's do it.
I mean, just the other day I was at the dog park.
Oh, yeah.
And this massive Cane Corso walks in.
Like really big.
Huge! I swear, like a Roman gladiator or something, just strutting in.
I bet people were a little nervous.
Oh, yeah, like everyone kind of froze up for a second waiting to see what this gladiator was going to do.
Uh-huh.
And you know what this dog did? Just plopped down right at his owner's feet, asking for belly rubs.
Oh, that's great.
Total sweetheart. It just shows you how appearances can be deceiving, right?
Totally. I mean, that's a perfect example.
So it's like, are Cane Corsos really these aggressive beasts? Or are they just misunderstood?
Right. That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they do have this reputation. You know?
Yeah.
I think it comes from, their history as guard dogs.
Makes sense.
They were bred centuries ago to protect livestock and property in Italy.
So it's in their DNA.
Yeah, they're naturally protective and territorial. I mean, that's what they were bred for. But does that automatically make them aggressive? Not necessarily.
One of the articles you sent talked about their strong prey drive.
Right.
What exactly does that mean?
Well, it means they have this instinct to chase things that move quickly.
Okay.
Squirrels, rabbits, even like a Frisbee flying across the park.
Ah, so it's like leftover from their working days.
Exactly. Back then, that drive helped them protect livestock from predators.
Right. But like, how do you manage that if you're not living on a farm with sheep to herd?
Good question.
I mean, I can't imagine it's a good idea to just let them chase everything that moves, especially like in a crowded park.
No, definitely not. Haha. That's where training and socialization are super important.
So more than just basic obedience.
Yeah, Cane Corsos need a type of training that, acknowledges and channels those instincts.
So like not your typical puppy preschool.
Probably not. Haha. Cane Corsos need an owner who can be like a strong leader.
Yeah.
They have to understand their place in the pack, so to speak. And they need to learn how to control that impulse to chase.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about family life? Is it true that Cane Corsos just aren't cut out to be family dogs?
That's another big myth we need to bust. I mean, sure, they have a reputation for being intense.
Yeah, aloof even.
Right. But you know what? Cane Corsos are actually known for being very affectionate with their families.
Really?
Oh, yeah. In fact, they can be total cuddle bugs.
I have to admit, I'm having a hard time picturing that,
I get it. I mean, you'd think guard dog, right?
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing about this breed. They can be both. Fierce protectors when they need to be, but also goofy and playful with their families.
Huh. So like a big softie under all that muscle.
Exactly. They thrive on human interaction, and they form really strong bonds with their people.
That actually reminds me of one of the articles we got.
Which one?
The one about Cane Corso temperament testing.
Oh, yeah.
It said they scored really high on things like trainability and affection with family members.
Right. And that means it's not just about, tolerating kids and other pets. It's about actively wanting to be close to their humans.
So basically, don't believe the hype. They can be amazing family dogs.
As long as they are properly trained and socialized.
Okay, got it.
And that's really important, especially for Cane Corsos. It helps them learn who's a friend and who's not, and helps them develop those social skills that make them well-rounded family members.
So we've tackled the aggressive myth and the not good for families myth. But what about this one? Cane Corsos are too difficult to train. Like, unless you're a professional dog trainer, you're going to fail.
Yeah, I've heard that one too. And to be honest, I think it comes from the fact that Cane Corsos are independent thinkers.
Okay.
They're not the type of dog that just blindly obeys every command.
So, like, they're not robots.
Exactly. They need a reason to follow you. They want to understand why they're doing something.
Ah, they want to use their brains.
Yes. And that's why positive reinforcement training works so well with them. It appeals to their intelligence and their desire to please.
One of the articles talked about clicker training being really good for Cane Corsos.
Oh, yeah. Clicker training can be great.
Why is that?
Well, it uses a distinct sound, the click, to mark a desired behavior. And then you immediately reward the dog with a treat or praise.
So it's all about clear communication.
Exactly. They quickly learn to associate the click with something positive, which makes training sessions much more efficient and honestly more fun for both of you.
Yeah, and it keeps them engaged.
Right. It's like giving them a puzzle to solve, which they love.
So maybe that ties into this next myth. Cane Corsos don't need much exercise. That one kind of sounds tempting, especially after talking about how important training is.
I could see that.
But is there any truth to it?
Not at all. Remember that working drive we talked about?
Mm.
That doesn't just disappear because they're living in a house with a backyard.
So they still need to, work it out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cane Corsos need both physical and mental exercise to be happy and healthy. They need both physical and mental exercise.
So, we're talking more than just a quick walk around the block, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Think long walks, hikes, playtime in a fenced yard,
Okay.
maybe even swimming if they like it. And
Oh.
don't forget about mental stimulation.
Right, right. So, puzzle toys and stuff.
Exactly. Those are great.
Yeah.
Keeps their minds engaged. And training sessions themselves are great mental workouts too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Obedience, agility, scent work, anything that challenges them mentally is good.
So it's like finding creative ways to keep them active.
Yes, physically and mentally.
And speaking of creative ways to tire them out, what about this myth? Cane Corsos are outdoor dogs. You know the logic. They're big, short coats. They can handle the weather. So why not just let them hang out in the backyard?
Well, there's handling the elements, and then there's really thriving. Cane Corsos are very social dogs. They need companionship,
Yeah.
and being stuck outside alone can lead to boredom, frustration, even destructive behaviors.
One of the articles mentioned they can get separation anxiety if they're left alone for too long.
Exactly. They bond really closely with their families, and they don't do well when they're left alone too much. They were bred to work alongside humans, not to just be left out in a field all day.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So no backyard banishment. But doesn't that make them kind of high maintenance? I mean, if they need so much attention and interaction, how do people with busy lives manage a cane corso?
It's all about balance,
Okay.
It's true that Cane Corsos need more than just a bowl of food and a pat on the head. But with some planning and a little creativity, it's definitely doable.
So what does that look like in real life?
Well, the most important thing is making sure they get enough physical activity every day.
Yeah.
Even if you can't go for a big hike every day, brisk walk in the morning and evening combined with some playtime inside can make a big difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about when you have to leave them alone for a few hours?
That's where the mental enrichment comes in. Leaving them with puzzle toys, chew toys, even a frozen Kong with treats can really help.
Oh, yeah.
It keeps them busy and prevents them from getting into trouble because they're bored.
It's like giving them a job to do while you're gone.
Exactly.
Speaking of jobs, these dogs were bred to work right. Do they still have that instinct in a more modern setting?
Absolutely. They excel at tasks that tap into their natural instincts. Obedience competitions, agility courses, even search and rescue.
Wow.
Yeah, they need a purpose, a way to channel their energy and intelligence.
So, they're not just couch potatoes.
No, they definitely need more than that. And finding the right activities for your Cane Corso is important. It makes them happy, engaged, and keeps them out of trouble. Plus, it strengthens the bond between you and your dog.
It almost sounds like having a Cane Corso is like having a really big, really smart toddler.
I can see that.
Constant stimulation, thriving on routine, and getting into mischief if they're bored.
That's a pretty good comparison. But just like with toddlers, the rewards outweigh the challenges. The loyalty, the love, the silly antics. It's all part of the deal.
Okay, so we've covered a lot today. We talked about their history, temperament, training, exercise, and even their suitability for families. But there's one thing we haven't really touched on yet, and it's something that came up in almost every article you guys sent.
You're talking about responsible breeding, right?
Exactly. It seems like finding a reputable breeder is crucial when it comes to Cane Corsos. Why is that so important for this breed specifically?
It all comes down to health and temperament. Cane Corsos, like many purebred dogs, can be prone to certain genetic health conditions. And responsible breeders will screen their dogs for these conditions to reduce the risk of passing them on to the puppies.
One of the articles mentioned hip dysplasia being a concern.
Yeah, hip dysplasia is a condition that affects the hip joint, and it can be very painful for dogs. Good breeders will have their dogs evaluated by a vet to make sure their hips are healthy before breeding them.
So it's not just about preventing health problems.
Wow.
It's about making sure you get a dog with a good temperament right.
Absolutely. Temperament is largely influenced by genetics. So responsible breeders are very careful about which dogs they breed together. They want to produce puppies with stable, predictable temperaments.
So it's like they're playing matchmaker, but for dogs.
Exactly. It's all about finding compatible partners to create well-rounded offspring.
So how can you tell if a breeder is really reputable? I mean, anyone can say they're responsible, but how do you know they're actually doing things the right way?
That's a great question. Reputable breeders will be open and honest about their practices. They'll be happy to answer your questions about their dog's health, temperament, and family history. They'll also be really involved in their puppy's early socialization and training.
One of the articles recommended looking for breeders who are members of breed clubs or organizations.
Yeah.
Why is that a good sign?
Well, breed clubs often have strict rules for their members, and they promote responsible breeding practices. They also provide support and resources to breeders, helping them stay up to date on health and temperament information.
So finding a reputable breeder is like finding a mentor,
I like that.
someone who can guide you through the process and give you valuable advice.
Exactly. A good breeder will be a resource for you throughout your dog's life, offering advice on training, nutrition, even just helping you navigate the challenges of dog ownership.
I think this whole deep dive has really highlighted that getting a Cane Corso or any dog really is a big decision. It's not just about falling in love with a cute puppy. It's about understanding what you're getting into and making sure you can give your dog a happy, healthy life.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Responsible dog ownership starts with making smart choices, and finding a reputable breeder is definitely a crucial first step.
We've debunked some myths, we've explored all these interesting aspects of this breed, and we've talked about the importance of ethical breeding. But as we wrap up this deep dive, is there one final thought you want to leave our listeners with? Something to think about as they learn more about Cane Corsos.
I think it comes back to this. Owning a Cane Corso is a partnership. It's about building a relationship based on trust, respect, and understanding. It's about meeting your dog's needs, both physical and emotional, and cherishing the bond you share.
That's beautiful. It's about seeing your Cane Corso as more than just a pet. It's like their family, a companion, a friend. And on that note, we'd love to hear from you, our listeners. Have you had any experiences with Cane Corsos? What did you think of this deep dive? Share your thoughts with us on social media and stay tuned for more deep dives into the fascinating world of dogs. Until then, happy tales to you and your furry friends. Why is that so important for this breed specifically?
Well, it all comes down to health and temperament.
Yeah.
Cane Corsos, like a lot of purebred dogs, they can be prone to certain genetic health conditions, and responsible breeders will screen their dogs for these conditions
Makes sense.
to, try to minimize the risk of passing those on to the puppies.
One of the articles mentioned hip dysplasia being a concern with Cane Corsos.
Right, hip dysplasia. It's a condition that affects the hip joint, and it can be really painful for dogs. So good breeders, they'll have their dogs checked out by a vet to make sure their hips are healthy before they breed them.
So it's not just about, avoiding those health problems. It's about making sure you get a dog with a solid temperament too. Right?
Absolutely. Temperament's heavily influenced by genetics,
Yeah.
and responsible breeders are very careful when they choose which dogs to breed together.
Right.
They want to produce puppies with stable, predictable temperaments. They look at the parents' personalities, their behavior, their overall suitability for family life.
So it's like matchmaking, but for dogs.
Exactly. It's about finding those compatible partners
Right.
who will complement each other and have, well-rounded puppies.
Okay, so how can someone tell if a breeder is truly reputable? Like anyone can say they're responsible, right?
Right.
But how do you know if they're really walking the walk?
Yeah, that's the big question. Reputable breeders will be transparent about their practices. They'll be happy to answer any questions you have about their dog's health, temperament, their lineage.
Okay.
And they'll be very involved in their puppy's early socialization and training.
One of the articles recommended looking for breeders who are members of like breed clubs or organizations. Why is that a good indicator?
Well, breed clubs usually have pretty strict guidelines for their members, and they promote responsible breeding practices. They also offer a lot of support and resources for breeders so they can stay up to date on all the latest information about health and temperament.
So finding a reputable breeder is kind of like finding a mentor, almost.
I like that.
Someone who can guide you through the process and, offer valuable advice.
Exactly. A good breeder will be a resource for you throughout your dog's entire life,
Yeah.
offering advice on training, nutrition, just helping you navigate, the ups and downs of being a dog owner.
I think this deep dive has really driven home the point that getting a Cane Corso or any dog really is a big commitment. It's not just about, falling in love with a cute puppy.
Right.
It's about understanding what it takes and making sure you can provide a happy, healthy life for your dog.
Couldn't agree more. Responsible dog ownership starts with making informed decisions, and finding a good breeder is a crucial first step.
We've busted some myths, we've explored all these cool things about this breed, and we've talked about how important ethical breeding is. But As we wrap things up here, is there one final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with? Something for them to think about as they continue learning about Cane Corsos.
I think it really all boils down to this. Owning a Cane Corso is a partnership. It's about creating a relationship that's based on trust, respect, and understanding. You need to make sure you're meeting your dog's needs, both physical and emotional, and, just cherish that incredible bond you share.
That's beautifully said. It's about recognizing that your Cane Corso is more than just a pet. They become a part of your family.
Exactly.
They're your companion, your friend. And on that note, we'd love to hear from you, our listeners. Have you had any experiences with Cane Corsos? What stood out to you from this deep dive? Share your thoughts with us on social media and stay tuned for more deep dives into the world of dogs. Until next time, happy tales to you and your furry friends.